Hi everybody, my name is Dave, thanks for joining me, and tonight I thought I'd make another useless video. Hopefully not useless for everybody. However, are you thinking of doing your own servicing? Or are you just that experienced person who does not really think things through like me, really? If you're either of them, this is the video for you. I found this video online. I was so impressed that I wanted to do something very similar, but I wasn't impressed with all of it. Here's a link to the original video, which will also be in the description. However, this has led me to look at actual real life data and the facts to justify the claims, which sometimes are a bit wishy-washy. A lot of it is not valid. For example, with pre-filling oil filters. I suggest doing your own research before making comments on anything I say here on this video, unless you simply just want to ask a question. Why bad oil change mistakes will ruin your engine is the title of the video. And did you know that over 1 million cars a year suffer from engine failure due to oil mistakes? What's worse, even experienced drivers make these oil change errors every day without realizing it. Not all of them. Draining oil from a cold engine. Draining your old engine oil when it's cold sounds okay, but when you put like this, it's a no-brainer. Cold engine oil behaves differently to warm engine oil. It is thicker, runs slower, and clings to metal parts, leaving behind contaminants, etc. The best solution is to take your vehicle for a short drive and run it for 5 minutes to warm the oil before draining it. Overfilling the engine. Now these sound obvious, but they're not all that obvious. Overfilling the engine can lead to engine damage, as in the case of a Huey engine, a runaway. Yes, with the 4JX1T, the Huey engine can be placed into a runaway state by overfilling the sump, regardless of whether it is excess oil or diesel from a broken seal. What generally happens, it's not normally engine oil from an oil change that causes this. What generally happens is the oil and diesel get in there from a broken seal on the injector, and the oil fills up to a point where it can get into the EGR system or the recirculation pipes back into the air intake, causing the engine to suffer untimely ignition, and the engine will just rev to destruction. You have basically two choices. You can drain the oil from the sump while the engine's running flat out, taking away the fuel source. However, you can cover the air intake to starve the engine of air, but if there's any gaps or holes, it's going to leak in and it's going to keep running. It might slow it down though. However, if you have a manual gearbox, it is possible to put the front of the car against something solid like a large tree and then stall the engine. This option will not work with an automatic transmission. Also, overfilling with oil can cause engine oil to foam, and this oil foam then lacks the correct viscosity to lubricate engine parts, increase friction and heat. Check the engine oil level before starting the engine and ensure that the car is on level ground before checking. Let the oil settle, because if you check too soon, the oil will not have settled into its sump and it may read temporarily low. Now, this video does say that some garages can fill the oil so quickly and then check the level straight away and it's not settled down into the sump. So it appears to be low, so they put more oil in. And then it settles down into the sump and it's over full. Not changing the oil filters regularly. A bit of a no-brainer, this one. Now I'll tell you what I do. I change my oil every 5,000 kilometers. I change my oil filters every 10,000 kilometers. You only need to change the large oil filter. You don't need to change the fuel filter, the oil filter or the air filter. Just the large oil filter when you do an oil change. I'll discuss this later. Now, if you watch the original video first, I do not agree with the video's idea of not changing filter recycles all of the captured junk back into the system again. I just don't agree with that. It can do, depending on how you do this. However, the filters trap fragments of metal and dirt and sludge, so they need to be changed regularly. Because if you get a blocked up filter, it will bypass. And if it bypasses, then nothing's getting filtered. Please note that the 4JX1 has two oil filters, a smaller one and a larger one. According to Isuzu, the smaller Huey oil filter does not require changing, although I've changed mine quite regularly. The larger lubrication filter does require changing, and note, a clogged filter will slow down the oil flow, cause lubricant to be scarce on critical components? The answer? Change your filters regularly. Should you pre-fill or not pre-fill your oil filters? No. All you experienced people out there are going to go, oh, well, you must pre-fill them. And I thought this too, and I would have said this. There is a huge debate on whether to pre-fill or not pre-fill oil filters. Some people do this, some people don't. However, what if the oil filter is at an angle like the 4JX1 filter? So it cannot be completely pre-filled. So then what? I do things logically. To me it matters not and makes no difference. I pre-fill my filters as much as I can. But maybe not anymore. So why? I base on one thing. The filter fills with oil anyway, and why not give it a head start? However, if you stop your engine, what happens to the oil that is waiting to go through the filter in the pipes? I'm not aware of a non-return valve, so I would imagine that it flows back into the sump, leaving the oil filter feed pipe empty. Thing to think about. In this case, what difference does it make if the filter is primed or not? It doesn't really, does it? The truth and some fact. Fact 1. If you fill your oil and your oil filter through the outlet hole, I'll bet money that you do, then unfiltered and possibly contaminated oil will be getting into your engine. Truth 1. Oil flows from the sump into the small holes around the edge of the filter, and then through the filter and exits the filter through the large hole in the center. So I'll bet you do fill that filter up with that central hole. Truth 2. It does make a difference to pre-fill the filter. However, it may not be what you're expecting the difference is. When Freedom Works did a test by using 25 pre-fill filters and then 25 dry filters, and I've got a link in the description below, there was no more bearing wear material in the tested oil, whether it was dry or a pre-fill filter. According to the guy wearing the knucklehead t-shirt, there is no discernible difference between the dry and pre-fill filters. Here's Bertie. He's had his haircut today. Look, he's looking rather trim. Looking better than me anyway. Far more energy than I have. I need to pre-fill filters is busted. When you fill your engine with new oil, you should start the engine for a minute, then leave the oil to allow it to drain back into the sump before checking the level again. This is to fill up your filters, fill up any gaps or anything where oil may be need to go, and then you can check your sump again once it's drained back down. So myth 2, engine oil degrades with age and is required to be changed on a calendar basis. That is busted, and it is busted by the link in the description below. Not changing the oil filter or knowing when to change it is the next topic. Do you know on the 4JX1 you're supposed to change the oil and filter with either 5W30 or 10W30, depending on your environmental average temperatures, every 10,000 kilometers. There are some criteria which can change this as follows, and I haven't got this as follows. 5W30 should be used where the temperature never exceeds plus 30 degrees, which it does a lot here in Australia. 10W30 should be used when the temperature never gets below minus 15 degrees centigrade. Let me tell you some facts here about Victoria. The maximum temperature ever recorded in Victoria was 47.1 degrees C in Walpeel on December the 16th in 2024. The minimum temperature ever recorded in Victoria was minus 12.8 degrees C in Hotham Heights on July the 30th, 1931. That's why I use 10W30, because it fits the bill better, and I'll show you on a chart now. This chart shows the temperature range of oils. If you're continuously driving short trips or you're on dusty roads, then the oil must be changed every 5,000 kilometers. But you don't change the filter, you change the oil. The chart shows oil changes for different criteria. So, I hope this helps someone who might be thinking to do their own servicing and they've never done it before, or experienced people who never thought about it like me. I just want to say thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye.